Hi folks, Elise here. Thanks for tuning in to the live stream broadcast for Spiceworks 6. We had a couple of technical difficulties last week in recording it, so what follows is the interview with Greg Cataware on Spiceworks 6 and the live Q&A with David Babbitt. Enjoy.
Moving forward, and 6.0 is a good example, some of the functionality you see actually is driven by the application installation itself, and some of it's driven off our servers, which we obviously can update on a more frequent basis than people having to install the application.
Cool. So how is what we do here at Spiceworks different from other companies in terms of product releases?
I think one of the fundamental things is we have an incremental approach to stuff, and by that I mean, let's take like our knowledge base that we're working on in 6.0, which is one of the big features. There's a whole bunch of stuff we'd love to do to the knowledge base, and there's lots of good ideas that the community's come up with that would probably take months or years to pull off. It's all good stuff. But given that we have this short release cycle, we kind of have to bite off little pieces of things. So kind of the struggle we have is, how can you release a little piece of something and it still add enough value so that people use it? And the key is we want to get our users using things, even though it's a piece of the functionality that we really want to build in the long term, so they can provide us feedback and we can adapt to it quickly.
And you mentioned knowledge base. I know just from reading posts in the community, that's a biggie, and a lot of users are super excited about that. What are some of the other biggies in terms of features with this one?
I think some of the, there's a handful. I think the community-driven knowledge base is a big one. There's some cloud detection stuff that we've added in our cloud services application. Probably one of the biggest for the users that have been around a long time is the new remote agent that we've got that helps with remote device or mobile devices. We've spent some time on, one of our Achilles heel over time's been how unknowns creep into the system and how we deal with them. And we've added some functionality in the scanner so it gets a little more accurate on unknowns, so you don't get as many unknowns as you used to get in the past. And we've added some new workflows for unknown detection so that you can resolve some of the unknowns. And that's one of the problems that everybody has in their environment because of firewalls and credentials and all those types of things. And an example, the scanning link up at the top of the app used to just take you to the settings page. Now it'll take you to a nice little workflow where you can try to resolve some of the unknowns that you've got in your environment. So I think that'll be one of the interesting things for folks to play with that have been users for years. They can see if they can get some of that stuff resolved.
And now that the beta's out, have you seen any surprises that you maybe weren't expecting?
Nothing that I'd call a surprise. It's pretty standard stuff. We generally ramp up our beta user count from a few hundred to a few thousand by the end. And as we add more and more features throughout the beta, obviously that's when we want to ramp up the most users so that they get to try all the new stuff. I strongly encourage folks to install the new betas every time we roll out a new one because there's new stuff added. And we really value the input they give us, both from a bug perspective. If something doesn't work in your environment, we need to hear about it. We can get it fixed. That's really our goal is to try the new functionality out in everybody's environment, which we can't reproduce in our test lab, obviously, and then get that feedback and take action on it before we get the final version released.
Test the beta, folks. Go to the Spiceworks 6 group to find out how.
Yeah, test that beta.
So what's the one thing, if you had to pick one thing that you were most excited about?
I'll probably go with the agent. It's mainly because it's something that our users have asked for years, and we've kind of been on the edge of pulling it off a few times, and we haven't got all the way there. And I feel like now we've made a big dent in it. It's not everything that we've always wanted in an agent, but it's a big dent down the path, and I think people get a lot of value from it.
Thanks so much. I'm sure everybody loved hearing that direct from the source. What's got you most fired up about Spiceworks 6? Chris?
For me, there's a couple of things that I'm looking forward to. Number one being the remote agent. As Spiceworks has grown, we have more people working remotely throughout the U.S., and we also have a European group. Those systems aren't always able to be scanned, so having the remote agent in place will help with our inventorying of those systems. Also, the knowledge base, I think people have been crying out for that for the last, five and a half years. So that's pretty exciting. And cloud services, and not just because I'm sitting in the middle of the cloud services development group either. I'm pretty excited about that. But we're going to talk to David Babbitt now, Technical Program Manager here at Spiceworks, focusing on the application. Hi, Dave.
Hey, Chris. How you doing?
What is it you say you do here?
I take the requests from the users. No. Anybody get that one? No. Okay. So, program manager. That means that part of my responsibility is working with the executives, guys like Greg and Tabrez, who to manage the priorities of what goes into the releases for the product throughout the years. And so just helping prioritize some of that stuff. And then for this specific release, I'm managing two teams. One is working on the knowledge base, so that the feature that people have been waiting on for several years. And the other one is a workflow to help you get a good scan, so to help you resolve some of the unknowns on your network and make sure you're getting a complete scan.
So, I guess a lot of people, when they hear technical program manager, they don't think of coding. You still write a lot of code, don't you?
I try.
There is no try.
Yeah, the coding now only seems to happen at night because my day job is involved in a lot more managing.
So just as a reminder, go ahead and tweet your questions to us at Spiceworks. Use hashtag Spiceworks6, and we'll be able to answer those questions for you live. But we do have some questions already, so we'll go right to those. So the first question we've got is from Brandon Stiley. Is there any chance you will correlate MAC addresses to device names and automatically migrate info, remove old host names?
I would say.
Does he win a prize for stumping you?
Let me read the question again. So, correlate MAC addresses to device names and automatically migrate info. Right. So, it's kind of hard to tell from the question exactly what the problem might be here, because I would argue that we're supposed to be doing this right now, so it kind of depends on the environment that Brandon has. We are making a couple of changes in this area, so one of them being if you've got an unknown device, and after repeated scans, what the product has done in the past is it sort of just accumulates these unknowns, and so what it's going to do now, if it's an unknown device and it sort of appears and disappears, it's gonna finally disappear. What you could be running into is that you're not fully scanning that device, and so if it's sort of a partially known device, all we know is maybe its name because we got that out of Active Directory, or we know its IP address, or rather its MAC address because we got that off the switch or something like that. We don't know all the details of that device, and so the other feature that we're working on in this release is to help you realize the set of devices that you haven't fully scanned and help you resolve those issues. So you'll know that your network is maybe only 50, 60, 70% scanned, and then when you go and click on that sort of message, you'll be able to go into a workflow that helps you try and resolve or mitigate some of these problems. So maybe fix your firewall issues, fix your authentication issues and stuff like that, so you can make sure you're getting a complete scan. I would guess that if this isn't just an outright bug, that it's probably not a completely scanned device.
Thanks, David, and thanks, Brandon, for the question. Our next one is from GD86. GD. Do we get shiny make life easier for end user stuff like automatic portal login using AD in Spiceworks 6? And now he's sweating.
Not that one. That specific request, the first part of that question sounds like the easy button. The second part was a specific feature request that's been around for a while. And no, we didn't do that one yet. That one's always sort of on the list, and we need to get to it. I would like to say that we have an army of interns starting this summer, and so looking forward to some of these types of items hopefully getting knocked out by some of those guys. That'll be fun.
Great. And thanks, GD86, for the question. Our next one is from Petrie NL. Will there be new features in the network map, such like traps? We actually want the cacti functionality embedded in Spiceworks 6.
This is a pretty easy one, too. No. We didn't invest anything in the network map in this release, and it's actually been a few releases. We're trying to decide, and working with users, with how we need to take the network map, what do we need to do with it, and so I think we will end up heading down the route of traps and more troubleshooting with the network map rather than what it is right now, which is more or less this sort of like glorified Visio sort of authoring drawing tool. So it's not in the current release, but I know that we've actually got a trap receiver, but we're only using it for the UPS devices right now.
And next question. From Magic AI 56. Is this agent useful for PCs that are local, but for which security, firewalls, et cetera, prevent scans?
Yes, and so that's one of the use cases. So there could be issues with your firewall if you're using the non-Microsoft firewall. Perhaps maybe you're having trouble figuring out how to configure it for Spiceworks to scan it. You can certainly dive into the community and ask other people that do have expertise with that firewall probably to help you get that scan running. Another option would be just to install the agent on all those devices. And so it's sort of, pick your poison. I think deploying agents, you tell me, Chris, deploying agents to a bunch of software, then that's just another liability of stuff to manage. So, but it's up to you. Certainly the agent will work that way as well. It's not just intended for those roaming devices.
Okay. Great. Brad underscore call asks, will the remote agent allow for NAT traversal if the laptop is at a hotel, i.e. it can still call home?
Yes. So the two ways it'll call home, if that laptop's signed into the VPN, so if the guy's doing work and he signs into the VPN and the agent connects at that point in time, then certainly it'll be able to reach the Spiceworks server. The other way is, not many people know that when you install Spiceworks, it's obviously it's listening on port 80 or whatever port you choose for regular HTTP traffic, but it's also it has a certificate that it just generates, and so it's also listening on the SSL port. So you could poke a hole from your perimeter, a port forward, to the Spiceworks server internally, and the agent could connect directly to the Spiceworks server. Directly over the WAN through the port forward to your Spiceworks server. So, in theory, any place where the laptop is on the Wi-Fi, it'd be able to connect to the Spiceworks server. So that's one way to set it up.
Great. And our last question from Gerard Williamson. Can help desk admins receive monitors and alert emails without having to promote to full admins in Spiceworks 6?
I don't have the answer to that one. I know that we made a change in a patch for 5.3 that was related to notifications, and so I think that per user now you can select which sorts of notifications, but I don't know that it's down to that level of detail. That patch would obviously be in 6.0 as well, but that's a great question to go and post inside the Spiceworks 6 forum, and somebody will be able to jump in there and ask, or rather answer that question.
All right, well, I think that's it for the questions. I want to thank David for taking time out of his day to join us and talk to us a little bit about the things that are coming in Spiceworks 6.
Cool.
Elise?
Thanks, guys. And just as a reminder, some lucky winner out of this stack will be getting a super cool beta t-shirt, which is being designed as we speak and is going to be awesome. So don't forget, every week you'll have a chance to tweet your questions or send them. If you don't have a Twitter account, don't worry. You can shoot them to us in the community. There's a post you'll see in the announcements group in the 6 group. So send them to us that way, either before or during the broadcast, and you'll have a chance to win a super cool t-shirt. So thanks, everyone. Tune in next Wednesday at 11 a.m. Don't forget to follow the group, the 6.0 group in the community. When you follow the 6.0 group in the community, you'll get all the latest updates on what's happening with the beta, and you'll be able to find out how you can get involved in beta testing if you're not already. Beta testing is an important part of every release cycle, and we really appreciate the time and effort you put into giving us the feedback. Plus, it helps you make sure that your update after the final release goes out is seamless. So go check out the group now. All you have to do is search for 6.0 in the community, and you'll find it. That's it. That's it from our end. Thanks so much. See you next week.
And thanks for joining us. I'm going to go back to the server room and put out a fire.